Shalom and welcome to Exploring the Tanach. This is part 1 of Neviim. Neviim, or prophets, is the second of the three major sections in the Tanach. The Neviim covers the time period from the death of Moshe Rabbeinu through the Babylonian exile and contains 19 books. The Neviim includes the Hebrews entering Eretz Israel, the conquest of Jericho, the conquest of Eretz Israel and the division among the tribes, the judicial system, the era of Saul and David, Solomon's wisdom in the construction of the first temple, the kings of Eretz Israel, prophecy, messianic prophecies, and the Babylonian exile. The Haftarah is a text selected from the books of the Neviim that is read publicly in the synagogue after the reading of the Torah on each Shabbat, as well as on Jewish festivals and fast days. A Targum is an Aramaic translation of the Tanach. According to the Talmud, the Targum on Neviim was composed by Yonatan ben Uziel. Like Targum Onkelos on the Torah, Targum Yonatan is an Eastern Babylonian Targum with early origins in the West, the land of Israel. Targum Yonatan served as a formal liturgical purpose. It was read alternately, verse by verse, or in blocks of up to 3 verses, in the public reading of the Haftarah and in the study of the Neviim. Yemenite Jews continue the tradition to this day, and have thus preserved a living tradition of the Babylonian vocalization for the Targum to Neviim. Neviim is traditionally divided into 2 parts: the former prophets, or Neviim Rishonim, which contains the narrative books of Joshua through Kings, and the later prophets, or Neviim Aharonim, which mostly contains prophecies in the form of biblical poetry. 2 voices are heard in Neviim Rishonim. One is a nationalist voice trumpeting heroic leaders such as Joshua and David, and the empire briefly consolidated under Solomon. More dominant is a covenantal voice, which explains the fortunes of leaders and the nation on the basis of their fidelity to Hashem. Neviim Aharonim contains the prophecies and teachings of individual prophets, mostly recorded in verse. The books of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel are the longest. The books of Samuel and Kings are each counted as 1 book. They are followed by the books known collectively in Jewish tradition as the 12 minor prophets, shorter books of other prophets such as Amos, Micah, Hosea, and Jonah. Neviim presents Israel's history as a nation on its land. The Israelites conquer and settle. They are beset by local enemies and eventually by imperial powers. Political and prophetic leaders vie for hearts. The supporters of Hashem's covenant do battle against the paganism of neighboring groups and among the Israelites themselves. A kingdom, a capital, and a temple are built and eventually destroyed. At the end of the Neviim, prophets who experience the exile teach a renewed monotheism to a chastened Israel. Historically, Neviim begins with the conquest of Eretz Israel under the leadership of Joshua, Moses' successor, in around 1200 BCE, and concludes with the prophecies of Malachi to those rebuilding the temple after the return from Babylonia around 515 BCE. This is the end of part 1. Shalom.